Welcome back to Good Morning San Diego. Families attended funerals for their loved ones just days after the school shooting that left 17 people dead in Florida. Those memorials and funerals this weekend have helped a community grieve in the wake of that tragedy. Many of the kids, though, really are catching the attention of a lot of people, calling for stricter gun laws. The mayor in Parkland, Florida, says the school district plans to tear down the freshman building where the shooting happened. But even as that physical reminder of the pain goes down, the emotional pain will last a lifetime for these kids. But what's very interesting is that they refuse to stand down. In fact, they've planned a huge march in Washington, D.C. in the next couple of weeks. Now, when these high-profile acts of violence occur, kids may feel confused and frightened. They will often turn to adults for guidance on how to deal with all of this. But also there are some things that parents need to be doing in this day and age to help their children cope with loss, with losing, with not always being number one. So, a psychologist, Dr. Michelle Carcel, is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you and I had this conversation, and I think it is of critical importance in this day and age. How can parents help their kids cope?
Right.
Because clearly, in these extreme cases, kids who can't cope with loss or, you know, pressures from society, act out.
Yes, they absolutely can. One of the things we have to address first is this is such a big tragedy. We're on the heels of repetitive situations like this, and kids are getting exposed to this so much that there's a mixture of confusion. And when we address our kids, we have to notice our own feelings about it first. These are our children. These are our babies. So when we go in to talk about something so heavy like this, it can also derail us a little bit. So it's good to have guidelines. It's good to have a way to approach it. Three things you want to think about. First is, what is the school telling them? What is the protocol and safety protocol that the school is delivering, and what message is that being delivered to them? And then asking questions, asking them about what they know. What do they understand? What information are they getting? This is really helpful with younger kids, because with younger kids, they speak a language that you can match. So if they say people are getting hurt, they don't understand what that means, you can match that language and explain a little bit more. With teenagers, asking questions, engaging their emotional response. This happened to their peer group. They're going to feel a lot. They're going to have a lot of, you know, dysregulation. Questions, absolutely. So you want to make sure that you help them out through that. And last, let them know they're safe. Tell them they're safe. Give them some guidelines about that, and talk about how they can use that for themselves.
You know, I would, when you say that, tell them that they're safe. When you think about teenagers who are very smart and savvy in this day and age, they're going to say, okay, Mom, yeah, you're telling me I'm safe, but look at these kids in Florida. They just got shot up at school. How am I safe? How are you? I mean, do you understand how they might feel that that would be a lie?
Yes, and what we want to do is show evidence, because the statistics are the facts. So at the end of the day, statistically speaking, this happens to a smaller population. That being said, it shouldn't happen at all. This is something that we don't want to see at all. And still, the odds are in our favor that our kids are going to be safe.
Okay, let's talk about warning signs. Yeah. Because there were a lot of warning signs with this troubled youth, this young teenager who opened fire on that school. Social media posts, people concerned about it, expelled from school. And maybe we need to, as parents, think a little bit more strategic about our own kids and understand that they are capable of a lot more than sometimes we give them credit for. So what do parents need to be looking out for?
Great question. So a couple of things you want to look out for with teenagers, particularly when you have a teenager have a shift in mood. If we see that the teenager is somebody who's outgoing and vibrant or likes to socialize, but then they change, they start to get withdrawn, they start to seem depressed, you want to engage immediately. You want to talk to them, you want to check on them, see how they're doing, basically. Same with little kids. If there shifts in mood is a very, very important indicator that something might be going on, a bigger problem. You also want to look out for subtle things like drawing that, you know, seem violent, or talks of violence, or, you know, if they're being bullied, or if they're having any type of reaction or impulsivity or irrationality, or talking about things that aren't making a lot of sense or seeming very aggressive. You want to talk about that.
Is there something we can do to not give them everything in the world? Everybody gets a trophy. You know, everybody is number one. You're wonderful all the time. I mean, there's something to me, and I am not a parent, but it would appear over these years, all of this excessive praise gives these kids a false sense of the world, so they can't handle conflict or loss, and then they react in such an extreme way. Is there something you could do as a parent to not set that tone?
Right, very good. One of the things that we need to acknowledge is children, they don't have the executive center of the brain fully developed. This part of the brain, the frontal lobe, is where we regulate our emotions. It's how we deal with things, how we've learned how to cope. That part of the brain isn't developed until our mid-20s. So we as parents have to recognize that and say, okay, how can I communicate with my kid to teach them how to regulate emotions? Teach them what you do. How do you regulate your emotions? Be a role model. If you get angry, how do you cope? Give that information to your kids. Tell them, this is how I deal with things, what works for you, and get those coping skills moving. Now, I will say this, in the wake of this, it's a horrible incident. You're going to have some teenagers respond with higher acuity symptoms, meaning that they might be more anxious, they might not be able to function as well because they're scared. That makes a lot of sense. You're going to want to seek out some professional support in that.
Well, Dr. Carcel, thank you so much for your expertise in this. We could talk about this for days on end. We will have to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Good Morning San Diego after this.